In Russia, a long time ago, there was a woman, and her name was Babushka. Now, Babushka was an old woman, but she loved to keep a house clean and tidy. She would clean the mirrors, she would wash the dishes, she would clean her clothes and press them and put them all away. For in her house there was a place for everything, and everything had a place. Babushka was proud of her house. She was proud of the way that she kept everything neat and clean and tidy. Now, one night, and it was the winter tide, when the snow was falling, she heard all of the people in the village shouting and screaming and yelling. For in the sky they had seen a star, a beautiful, bright, shining star. Babushka looked out of her window and, to be honest, she noticed that the window needed cleaning more than she looked at the star. But as she polished and scrubbed at that window, she could see that it was a bright and a beautiful star. But she wasn't going to go outside, for that would mean that she would get her feet covered in the snow and the sleet, and she would drag it all back inside of a beautiful, tidy house. But the shouting and the screaming and the yelling and the pointing continued, and soon Babushka sat down by the side of a fire, and as the flames got higher, she found herself falling asleep inside of a neat, clean, tidy and warm house. But in the middle of the night there was a great clatter at the door. Babushka arose from her seat by the side of the fire and went over to the door and opened it up, and she could not believe her eyes. For there by her door were not one, not two, but 3 kings. 3 kings who were riding upon camels, and they'd obviously travelled a great distance, but they'd come to Babushka's door. The 3 kings were called Caspar, Melchior and Balthazar. They stood there. The voices were deep and rich. Babushka, Babushka, Babushka. You have the cleanest and best house in all of the village. Babushka felt very proud. You have the cleanest house in all of the village, and we would wish to stay here for the night and have something to eat and rest here, for we are on a long journey. Babushka was interested. Please tell me, my fine gentleman, tell me, where is it that you're going? As they sat by the side of her fire, and she gave them thick, warming soup, they spoke. They were on a journey. They spoke. They said, we are on a journey to find a baby that is born, a king that is born, a king that shall be born in a cowshed. Babushka was shocked. A baby, a king that would be born in a cowshed. She could not believe, and she was interrupted. For the 3 kings spoke to her and said, oh yes, we shall travel, and we shall follow the star, but tonight we must rest. That night Babushka was very curious indeed, but when the 3 kings arose the next morning, she said to them, I will help you to find the road. I will show you the way that you can follow the star. But the 3 kings, whose voices were deep and rich and low and long and loud, spoke to her. It is all right, Babushka. We will be able to follow the star, for we need no road, but please, would you come with us? Babushka thought. The idea of seeing a new baby king, one who'd be so special and born inside of a cowshed, but she thought that she was too old and too cold, and after the kings having been inside of a house, she needed to tidy and clean and put everything away. But it was throughout the day as she cleaned and tidied that she thought she would like to go and see the little baby born in a cowshed. But what could she bring to a king? She had no great rich gifts that she could bring. Now, she had had children of her own, so she went and she brought down some of their old toys. She washed them, she cleaned them, she polished them, she painted them, and she smiled to herself, for they really would be good to give to a baby king. and she thought of what else she could bring. She brought a shawl over her shoulders. She brought some drink for the journey, so that she would not be cold. And then she set off, and she thought that she would be able to follow the footprints that the three kings had left. If nothing else, she'd be able to follow the camels' footprints that they would have left in the snow. But when she went outside, wrapped up as she was, she could see that the snow had fallen so deep and so heavily that every footstep or camel print had gone from out of the snow. She had all of the things that she was going to take to the baby king in a pack and a bundle on her back, and she walked with the bundle upon her back and walked as far as she could and asked anyone if they'd seen the three kings who were seeking to find a baby that was born in a cowshed. Now, many people thought that Babushka had lost her mind, but she knew what she'd heard, she knew what she'd seen, and the three kings had been there at her door, had slept underneath her roof. And so she travelled on, and the snow kept falling down, and Babushka felt cold. But when she came to a village, she looked in through a window, and there she could see an old woman. The old woman was sitting by a very small fire, and she was cold. Babushka thought she could not go past this old woman without giving her something that would keep her warm through the cold winter days. And so she left the shawl that she had in that bundle at her back. She left it on the windowsill for the old woman to find in that winter tide. And on she went. And when she came to another village, when the moon hung in the sky like a great silvered coin, she saw that there was a little girl crying because she had no toys to play with. Babushka knew that she had in the bundle at her back, she had some toys that she could at least spare one to give to this little girl. And rather than knock on the door and come right in and hand the toy to the girl, she left it by the doorway and went on her way. As Babushka travelled, she found people who were thirsty, so she left them the drink that she had in the bundle. She found other children who had no toys, and she would leave those toys by the window, by the door, at the foot of their beds when they were asleep. And so it's thought that Babushka travels from the top of the world to the bottom of the world, to the side of the world and all around. And she travels, and if she finds anyone, man or boy or woman or girl, who needs a present, when the snow falls upon the ground, Babushka will take something from the bundle at her back and give it to her.